Welcome to all. This is B. Curie from Department of Political Science, Vishwadaya Government Degree College, Venkatagiri. Today's lecture is about the theory of liberty of John Stuart Mill. Before going into the theory of liberty of J.S. Mill, I would like to talk about a short biography of J.S. Mill. We could start it by saying if anyone is liberal, it is surely J.S. Mill. John Stuart Mill was one of the most influential political thinkers of 19th century, and in his political theory, liberalism made a transition from laissez-faire to an active role for the state. From a negative to a positive conception of liberty, and there is a shift from an atomistic to a more social conception of individuality. J.S. Mill was one of the most influential philosophers of Britain, and he was intellectually well trained beyond his years. His father, who is a philosopher and economist, James Mill, taught him Greek at the age of 4 and Latin at the age of 8. By the age 10, he read many of Plato's dialogues. He was familiar with the writings of Euripides, Homer, Sophocles, Thucydides, and he could solve problems in algebra, geometry, differential calculus, and higher mathematics. At the age of 13, J.S. Mill published an introductory textbook on economy. It's called Elements of Political Economy in 1920. He never did a formal schooling but was trained by his father James Mill and his friend Bentham. Mill wrote for several newspapers and periodicals at a very young age. In 1826, just at the age of 20, he fell into a deep depression but recovered by reading the romantic poetry of Coleridge and Wordsworth. In 1827, he began working for East India Company and worked for nearly 3 decades. From 1865 to 1868, he was a member of British Parliament trying to push through legislation granting women's suffrage and workers' rights. Mill wrote for several newspapers and periodicals at a very young age. And his major contributions are System of Logic, which was published in 1843, that elucidated a coherent philosophy of politics. A coherent philosophy of politics. And his most famous works on liberty, which was published in 1859, and The Subjection of Women, 1869, were classic elaborations of liberal thought on important issues like law, liberty, and rights. And The Considerations of Representative Government, which was published in 1861, provided an outline of his ideal government based on proportional representation, protection of minorities, and institutions of self-government. And one of his famous pamphlets on utilitarianism, which was published in 1863, endorsed the Benthamite principles of the greatest happiness of the greatest number, but it still made a significant departure from the Benthamite assumption by arguing that his principle could only be defended if one distinguished happiness from pleasure. And especially for J.S. Mill, happiness is something which comes only by a decent living and a progressive life. Coming to the theory of liberty of J.S. Mill, we should see uh, how for Mill, liberty of individuals should be protected, why it is so important for him. Mill believed that when individuals are free to make their own choices, normally they use many of their faculties. Faculties in the sense the abilities human beings have. The human faculties of perception in the sense awareness, insight or awareness, and judgment, discriminative feeling, the mental faculty which can differentiate between things, and mental activity and moral preference are exercised in making a choice. He says, he who chooses his plan for himself employs all his faculties. So, one who chooses his plan for himself employs all his abilities. Even for a simple thing, when suppose we want to admit our kids into a school, we'll make choices. So, we use these choices in every arena of our life. For making a choice, we observe, we find out, we make a small research and do many things to arrive at a decision. For Mill, he uses observation to see, reason and judgment to foresee, activity to gather materials for decision. So decision means when we have to decide something, we need to have all the material with us, and discrimination to decide, and when we decide, firmness and self-control to hold this deliberate decision which we make. So Mill said that while we might be able to guide individuals in some good path without allowing them to make choices, the worth of such individual or worth of such human beings would be doubtful. Sometimes we may guide some people, individuals, not to go in certain path, or we will restrict their path. We won't allow them to make their own decisions. That is good in one sense, that we are helping them to choose some right path. But then some right path or some good path. But then again Mill says that maybe if we are helping them or guiding them like this in making choices, that individual won't make his own choice. So he won't be thinking, he won't use his faculties for arriving at the decision. So the worth of such human individuals would be doubtful. Then the necessity of liberty is for the improvement of moral and mental powers of human beings. For Mill, liberty is basically, he believes that it is for the improvement of moral and mental powers of human beings. For Mill, if an individual could not exercise his choice, then he is no different from an ape. This improvement of moral faculties of men and women will take place when they exercise some three specific liberties. So what Mill believes that one can improve his moral faculties only when they exercise three specific liberties. First one is the liberty of thought and expression, including the liberty of speaking and publishing. Second one, the liberty of action. And the third one is the liberty of association. Coming to the liberty of thought and expression, Mill offered two arguments for this. The first one is the dissenting opinion could be true and its suppression would rob mankind of useful knowledge. And the second one is, even if the opinion was false, it would strengthen the correct view by challenging it. So here, what Mill basically says is, in defending freedom of thought and expression, he says, if all mankind minus one were of one opinion, mankind would no more be justified in silencing that one person than he, if he had power, would be justified in silencing mankind. So, when among the 100, 99% will be having some opinion which may be correct or which may be wrong. Sometimes that 99 people might be wrong and that one person may be right. So it is always better to listen to, take the opinion of that one person also. So that ways we will be mankind will be progressing. And even if that one person is wrong, then the best thing is what we get here is it would strengthen the correct view by challenging it. Mill wanted us to give up the assumption of infallibility, that infallibility in the sense that the opinion that individual can never be wrong. So when our certainty of beliefs makes us crush all contrary points of view so that our opinion is not subject to criticism. And this brings us to the truth. He says ideas must be subjected to scrutiny from others' points of view for arriving at the truth. So ideas always, it is better for ideas to be subjected to scrutiny from other points of view for arriving at the truth. Mill particularly supported individuality because great advances in society were made possible only by creative individuals. Creativity would be allowed only if allowed to function freely. For example, uh, here what Mill wanted is he wanted individuals to progress and develop since they have the capability to do so. If we take the example of Galileo, he tried to prove that Earth moves around Sun in 1633. But the then Catholic Church condemned him for trying to do so and made him apologize. It was a conflict between reason and belief, science and faith. If only faith was to be followed, humanity would have never realized that Earth is spherical. So, we always should give liberty to creative individuals. So, creativity would be allowed only if allowed to function freely. A scientist can think and progress only when he is given freedom. For Mill, liberty was good in itself, for it helped in the development of humane, civilized, moral person. For Mill, uh, he has taken a departure from the early belief of liberals, especially the liberals defended liberty for the sake of an efficient government. But Mill's liberty, it is regarded as a fundamental requisite for leading a good, worthy, and a dignified life. Coming to the second kind of liberty, which means Mill states, it is liberty of action or liberty to make choices. Then Mill divides all actions into two categories. First one is actions that concern only the individuals performing them or self-regarding actions. First one is actions that concern only the individuals performing them or self-regarding actions. Here he says, over himself, over his own body and mind, the individual is sovereign. Mill does not want society or any other collectivity to interfere in the self-regarding activities. Mill concludes, Mill concludes that there should be no interference. Mill concludes that there should be no interference with self-regarding actions. Mankind can interfere only for the end of self-protection and only purpose for which power can be rightfully exercised over any member of a civilized community against his will is to prevent harm to others. And the second one is and the second one is there are those actions which affect others or others regarding actions. There are those actions which affect others or others regarding actions. Here, if an individual's action results in harmful impact on others, if an individual's action results in harmful impact on others, then society or authority has the right to interfere and regulate such behaviors. However, they could not do so because they think or perceive certain actions of an individual as a threat to others. This distinction between self regarding and others regarding is problematic and lacks clarity. For example, if a man destroys his own property, this is an action affecting others because others depending on him will be affected. And even if he does not have dependents, his action can affect others who, influenced by him, might behave in a similar manner. Coming to the third liberty, which that is the liberty of association, which Mill calls for the improvement of moral faculties of men and women. He defended this liberty of association on three grounds. When the thing to be done, he says, when the thing to be done is likely to be done better by individuals than by the government, there is no one as fit to conduct any business or to determine how or by whom it shall be conducted as those who are personally interested in it. So, by this, what he says is, if individuals can do better than government, then they should do it. And the second thing he says in this liberty of association, Mill wanted individuals to get together as voluntary associations to do something what the government can do better, so that there are varied experiments, endless diversity of experience. Even when government can do it far better than individuals and voluntary associations, still he prefers that men should come together and men should come together as a voluntary associations and do that particular work. By doing this, he feels that men will progress. And the third one, if we let the government do mill things, if we let the government to do everything, then there we facilitate aggrandizing its power. If we look at the government for every rise in life, not all the freedom of press and the popular constitution of the legislature would make this or any other country free otherwise than in name. So by the third one, what he is saying that if we keep on looking at the government for each and everything in our life, then even if uh, freedom is given, it is only for namesake. And finally, coming to the critique, Mill's ideal was about improvement that could lead to a better society. He wanted individuals to better themselves morally, mentally, and materially. And individual liberty, he says it's instrumental in achieving his ideal. So Mill feels that if liberty is given to individuals, then only he can improve all his faculties. That's in the first instance when we said he can choose, he can make choices. By making choices, he will be improving his mental faculties. And the second thing, a second critique is about some suggested that Mill's conception of liberty is actually based on an illiberal or perfectionist moral ideal which undermines a genuine tolerance of different choices and beliefs. So straight away some critics have said that Mill's conception of liberty is generally illiberal or perfectionist. Then, coming to the third one, some people criticized his theory for its inconsistencies in his philosophy. Mill's distinction of self regarding and others regarding actions were found problematic according to some scholars, since the distinction made by Mill was not clear. Even Mill agrees to this. For example, there are certain things like taking drugs. It is self regarding. We are not doing something wrong to another person, but is it okay to leave that person like that? That is a question. So, and similarly, in some situations where a person, an individual is trying to cross a bridge which is about to fall, and we have every right to stop him, but by stopping him we are curtailing his liberty. But we cannot say that by curtailing his, Mill himself says, by curtailing his liberty, um by not allowing him to cross the bridge, we are giving him a higher, we are putting him in a higher, giving him a higher choice of not drowning into the river. So here his explanation for what is self-regarding and what is others regarding is not very clear. So this is about Mill's theory of liberty. Thank you.